Hey everybody, right before the show, wanted to let you know we have an update to our Patreon. A brand new monthly movie podcast is available now for $10 and up patrons at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. You want to hear me and Bob talk all about Mask of the Phantasm, the best Batman movie of all time? You can hear all about that in our long, almost 3 hours long podcast, patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
Cartoons from present in the past. Every week will be an animated bash. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! Maybe a short but mostly shows. We'll talk, we'll analyze, exploring as we go. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What a Cartoon, where we smoke as we shoot the bird. I'm your host, the expert quad laser user, Bob Mackey, and this is an audio exploration of every cartoon ever. Who is here with me today?
Henry Gilbert, and some would say the Earth is our moon.
I don't think so. And who is on the line?
I'm Matthew J., and this one's called Robot Affliction.
And today's episode is the Aqua Teen Hunger Force episode, Mayhem of the Mooninites.
This is a good movie.
Yeah, he's Vegetable Man.
He's Vegetable Man. Yes, we are taking on the longest running Adult Swim show to date. In terms of seasons, I think the Venture Brother beats it in terms of years possibly by now.
Think so, just because Aqua Teen's been over for like 3
Yeah.
years, and it only came, and Venture Brothers came 2 years after Aqua Teen.
Aqua Teen had 14 years. Venture Brothers is now on its 15th year, but only, what, 7 seasons?
Yeah, they just finished their 7th season, which I just rewatched and is spectacular.
Well, we're talking about Aqua Teen. We'll say Venture Brothers. Actually, we already did Venture Brothers.
We did, but
we'll
hey,
probably do it again.
You did it without me.
There's lots of Venture Brothers.
I'm sorry that it was a premium patron, Matt. He superseded you via ways of his money.
We're talking about Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I think it's the furthest lasting show or the longest lasting show to sort of extend the Space Ghost brand and style of humor. And that is kind of gone from Adult Swim right now. But it was so important, so popular. I believe it's the only Adult Swim show to ever have a movie in damn theaters.
Yeah.
How we're gonna get to that. That's a lot of fun. But before we get started, I want to ask all of you guys where you first discovered the show. Of course, if you listen to some of our past episodes, you'll know that I had a screener of Adult Swim's early lineup. I got that in August before the entire lineup premiered because I was reviewing anime DVDs, and my editor was like, I threw this Cartoon Network thing in the box. I don't want it. You can just watch it. And it was like episode 1 of Samurai Jack was on one tape, and it was all the first Adult Swim shows on another tape. And again, I said this before on podcast, but I watched all of them like, this is great. It will never work. It is too weird and just gross. But guess what, folks? This show ran for 14 years, and everybody loved it.
So many episodes, too. Yeah, I also was a day one Adult Swim viewer. Like I said on our Harvey Birdman episode, I watched it all, and this was tied with Birdman as my favorite of the first year, and home movies, too. Man, it was a really good first starting year of that. But Aqua Teen was the easiest one to get my friends on board with. Harvey Birdman was just too, like, esoteric and dorky, while meanwhile, home movies, it's just the squiggle vision is so off-putting. But meanwhile, you show these guys a bunch of selfish a-holes yelling at each other in funny ways. Everybody loves that.
I know I do. How about you, Matthew? Where did you discover this show?
I detailed this a little bit in a recent video I made for Cartoons 101 about the new show Joe Pera Talks with You. But as we always mention, I'm a bit younger than you guys. So Adult Swim came out when I was like 12.
You were age inappropriate. There were warnings on the screen that told you, Matthew, to tune out immediately. Louis C.K.
I had to
gave you
remember
strict
fighting
orders
to stay up. I remember like always seeing home movies and then other shows being like, oh, I got to make it up for Harvey Birdman. But I came into school one day and it was, I'm pretty sure it was after the first day of like, because they did some previews that I remember people talking about. Actually, this might have been after the preview. They did some previews because they would show like Space Ghost and Night of the Living Dew and stuff at night. And then they did a like, this is the Adult Swim block. Like they would do like Toonami Midnight Run. They did it kind of like one of those before it became a full-fledged, like, this is happening every week. And I remember my friend coming into school, and we were in art class, and he was like, you're not going to believe what I watched on television last night. And he told me about the first episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force, with the Rabot, and he was like, yeah, it's like a cup and a box of fries and a meatball, and they're made by this guy named Dr. Weird, and he also makes a giant robot which makes hair grow on everything, and he's like, and then the cup leaves to get a perm, and he just like laid out the whole episode for me, and I was like, we're children, so I was like, you're making this up, like this is not a thing that would ever air on television.
Yeah.
And then next week I got to watch it, and it became the thing that defined my life and my TV viewing habits for all of my teen years.
Wow.
And somewhat today, just now, before I called you guys, I was watching Brad Neely's Hargnal and Sclopio Pipio because it was on the Adult Swim app, and I was like, hey, I love this show. I watched a couple episodes of that to waste some time.
By being the weirdest of the shows, it opened the door for so much weirder things to be on Adult Swim. And so, yeah, I would think the Brad Neelys of the world do owe a bit to this show, too.
They really do.
Oh, for sure.
And this was the one Adult Swim early show to not really have a premise, although there is a fake premise
They fight
involved.
the premise. They have the premise for one episode, right?
It is very much like in the Space Ghost Parade of Humor, where it is an anti-show, where the premise of Space Ghost is it's a talk show. It was that for a bit, but then it just became weird, and occasionally you would see clips of another celebrity talking, but then they were just doing their own thing. on Space
That's why
Ghost.
they're detectives, because like they were still working for Turner, and they had to actually pitch this show, and they were like, oh, okay, they're detectives, and then they just like abandoned that immediately.
So let's go over the history, Matthew, now that you're bringing up the pitch and everything. So, as Matthew pointed out, this had a stealth premiere. I think all of the early Adult Swim shows had a stealth premiere in December of 2000. So this secretly aired about 8 months before Adult Swim started proper. So December 30th,
It's
2000.
probably what you got on that tape, right? It's probably like all the
Yeah.
same things that you saw.
Yeah, so they had all aired on Cartoon Network like at 3 a.m. or something, just for shits and giggles, just because that's sort of what they do now. They'll put something on that's really weird at 3 a.m. just to freak you out. But yeah, that's when it started. But it actually ran from September 2001.
Too Many Cooks.
Too Many Cooks was one of those, to August 2015. 12 seasons, 139 episodes, and one unfinished episode that was a reaction to the bombing scare.
Right.
And that was leaked. That was leaked, I believe, in 2015, and an unfinished version of that is easy to find.
Oh, I've never seen that. I
Yeah.
need to, we'll talk about the bomb scare later, but man, I never seen that.
And just proves that cops are stupid.
That original airing of it too feels like Cartoon Network testing the waters of, will we get a bunch of phone calls from angry mothers if we air this now?
Yeah.
By not getting that after showing it, they're like, okay, let's go forward. Let's take the next step.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about early Adult Swim before, but in case you missed those episodes or forgot, the early Adult Swim weeks would have warnings running across the bottom of the screen. It would have the Louis C.K. thing between every commercial saying all kids out of the pool, adults only. It was kind of a joke, but they're also like, oh shit, like kids could watch this. We could get in trouble. We could get letters. This is dangerous. We don't know if this will work. So we need to be upfront and say, get the kids out of here. This is adult stuff.
They did the Jackass thing. There was like the black screen with white text on it. Like every hour, I think they'd put it up, and they would tell you like these are weird shows. It's still to this day, just by virtue of being on Cartoon Network, the network that like Steven Universe is on. When I see like Eric Andre say the N word, I'm like, wow, like that's still, you can still shock me that things happen on television, even though we live in this weird time where like you can say shit no matter what.
Yeah, I
any
mean,
time of day now.
TV was much tamer then, and Adult Swim was much tamer then. The shows would get much more intense. Like Rick and Morty could not air at the beginning of Adult Swim's run in no way. It would
I
be like an
think
HBO show, maybe.
I would think even in 2010, Rick and Morty
Yeah.
couldn't air on Adult Swim. Like they weren't ready for it yet. And that's it's fun going back to watch. I watched this one and several other early episodes in prep. And when I saw what was dirty in the 2001 and 2 episodes of Aqua Teen versus what I know they went to in the later years, I'm like, oh, they just said damn and smoked. That's it. Like they're not ripping dicks off or just screaming.
The show would get a lot more violent, a lot more vulgar.
If you remember the when they announced the Saturday lineup, which was all anime at first, the commercial had Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho say, "I'm gonna kick your and then it get cut off by the Adult Swim logo." Like that's that was what they were like, look what we're going to do tonight on Cartoon
You're
Network.
going to hear ass at least once. So yeah, this series, again, part of the original 2001 Adult Swim lineup, and it was the early breakout hit that had the most longevity and still does to this day. I believe the other frontrunners at the time were C-Lab and Harvey Birdman. They each had 4 seasons compared to Aqua Teen's 11 or 12. I think it's 11.
There's kind of no comparison there.
12.
And same with what's been successful on Adult Swim. The other breakout hits they're not exactly homegrown. Like you have Rick and Morty, but that's, because Dan Harmon couldn't make Community anymore. So he worked with Justin Roiland more to make that show. It wasn't an internal thing. And then meanwhile, they had like Family Guy reruns and Futurama reruns. That isn't Adult Swim. They gave those shows a place to grow and finally be the hit that they were meant to be. But it wasn't like interns who came up through Cartoon Network making the show within the company. Also, Adult Swim doesn't own Family Guy or Futurama.
Yeah, they just lease them. What is the status of Venture Brothers? Do they own that, or is that just
I believe they own it, too.
production-wise?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, they own it, but it's like, I think like certain creators, I mean, they've had some real bad press this year with the way they've treated some creators.
Oh, yeah.
But
I
certain
think we'll
ones,
get to
they
that.
have a kind of understanding where like Doc and Jackson like make all the DVDs and stuff, which is also a free labor thing, I think, but it's also like they would let them do anything with it that they wanted to. Like they got to make all the merch and do the book and that kind of stuff.
That creative freedom comes with a price, and that price is money and being paid less. Unless you're Dan Harmon or Justin Roiland, who are making big bank on their.
Dan Harmon has enough money. We witnessed it live.
We got to see
at
him
Harmon's.
brag live about his money.
So these characters actually, so a lot of you probably know this, but they originate in the Space Ghost universe.
I heard that they were on an episode of Space Ghost
Wrong,
first.
wrong. I'll tell you how in a second. So
I'm so glad that you are getting this right because like
Yeah.
I know you know this, but I have had people because I talk about Adult Swim a lot, and I am actually I'm formally announcing right now I'm going to do a long podcast series about Adult Swim.
Killer.
And I was there. I was a child, and like I had these these episodes. Season 1 and 2 of Oxygen Hunger Force are one of those things that are burned into my brain forever because I watched the DVDs just again and again and again with everyone I'd ever met at the time, and they explain on the DVD how that episode came to be, which you're about to explain. And that's lost because it's a DVD extra. So now we just have the episode and people have like Berenstain Bears it into this thing that it never ever was.
Yeah, I mean, I will ruin every party by pointing this out. I will destroy every conversation by correcting you sternly, sirs.
Me too.
So yes,
I can't let anyone be wrong about it.
So the two creators of Aqua Teen Hunger Force and the writers of every episode were writers for Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and they came up with an idea for an episode called Baffler Meal, featuring the Teen Hunger Force, which were, early versions of Frylock, Master Shake, and Meatwad. And the idea for the story was that Space Ghost racks up a huge bill at a fast food restaurant. He can't pay it, so now these characters will enter his show for product placement, and their goal in life was to fight teen hunger. And they wrote this episode because they were sick of writing for Space Ghost, and they realized too late in the writing process like there was not enough Space Ghost in this episode, so they shelved the characters for a later date, and that premise became the classic episode Kentucky Nightmare.
Oh, God, that's a great one, too. One of my favorite Space Ghost product placement jokes was the potted meat ads he was reading in the episodes, too.
And that is my favorite era of Space Ghost, those later, crazier ones where it wasn't like we need to feature this celebrity footage in some way.
When you had all these creative people who were just like, I want to do something that isn't Space Ghost, so they just were trying to shove whatever they could into the Space Ghost shape so they could do it.
The episode never got animated. Like the script got shelved, and then they later made it because the show is so cheap to make.
Yeah.
And because they just have all the voice actors, like they all like lived in Atlanta, a lot of them at the time. They could just make because this one didn't even have Dana Snyder or anything in it. So like they just animated it for the fucking DVD for what, season 2, I think?
It actually aired on Cartoon Network Adult Swim for Space Ghost. It did air on TV at least once, and probably more than that, because it was part of that later, like, let's just do more Space Ghost one last time sort of run in the mid-2000s. But yeah, it did air
that
once.
was weird.
At least once, and all of the character voices are the initial concepts for the voices, and Dave Willis is doing Meatwad and Master Shake. I don't know who is doing Frylock. It's a way different voice. I think it's Matt Malero.
I would bet.
And by the way, way too many vowels in that guy's last name. I had to
Yeah.
look up a video like, how do you say that name? It's like, there's every vowel, sometimes more than once.
Chill with it, man.
And Shake is like basically Ignignat's voice, right?
Yeah, and that was the original idea for the voice until they found Dana Snyder. But here's a clip of this episode. It's all online. It's not only a DVD extra. Most of the stuff is online. But here is Master Shake talking about like their goal, why they're on the show, and it's very Ignignat.
What is that, and what's it doing here?
I am dethirstifying the perimeter.
Yazorak, obviously.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force, assemble.
Krylak, the hunger hater tater.
Meat wad, ball of compressed meat. The burn is in your mind.
Together we are
Aqua Teen Hunger Force. The burn is in your
Meatwad,
mind.
stand down.
But it's in your mind.
So that's the Aqua Teen Hunger Force. And again, that's called Baffler Meal. Like most Space Ghost episodes, it's on YouTube. I say you watch it. It's really fun. And of course, you see the prototypes for all of the characters and what they were originally supposed to be.
The constant repetition of the bun is in your mind is also very much like
the bun is in your mind.
that is a Willis Milaro touch of just like, no, constantly repeating ourselves. That's the point of it. Like
Yes.
that it'll be funny by the 80th time you hear it.
So the story behind this, how this series came into being, is Space Ghost went on hiatus in, I believe, 99 or 2000, and Dave Willis and Matt Malero, being writers for the show, said, let's pitch this idea for these food characters. We have this crazy idea for these food characters to be in their own cartoon. I believe this is at the same time they were making those like Brack Show specials, where it wasn't the Brack Show sitcom Brack Show, it was sort of a Brack variety show special. It had like the chieftains on it and things like that.
Yeah.
They're really weird, and there was like sketch comedy on them too. They were branching out in terms of we can do more animation than just like these gifs of Space Ghost at a desk. It's still going to be gifs, but it's going to be more, ambitious.
They really thought Brack was going to be the breakout star of Adult Swim.
I wish he was. I love Brack.
They put a lot of chips on the Brack bet, but I love Brack too. Andy Merrill's so funny.
Yes, thankfully still alive. So Dave and Matt, they pitched the idea sort of informally, and they were told no. And I think they actually had a formal pitch, and they said in these oral histories I read, like, you could see people looking down at their Blackberries, like when we were one sentence in. And their idea is like, no, the characters would just hang out and things would happen to them. Crazy things would happen to them. And at the time, that was not Cartoon Network's, brand. They're like, no, these characters need to be something or do something. And in the
Proactive.
Yes, proactive characters, Rostify them. So in the spur of the moment, they're just like, yeah, they're detectives. They're detectives. Sure, they solve crimes. And that was basically what gave them the go. I believe Mike Lazo was like, this is crazy, but, we need ideas. You guys are great writers. Let's just do it. So just because no one was really paying attention or caring that much, they were able to get this idea on the air.
For all of his flaws, Mike Lazo let this stuff happen just because he seemed to ultimately just go like, shrug, give it a try.
As long as you're not a woman, I'll trust you to make this show.
Oh, we got high together and you have a penis. Well,
Sounds good.
Sounds good, buddy.
The impressions they do of him on the Venture Brothers commentaries are some of my favorite things. So just like you can tell they love him and they like working with him, but they're like, man, this guy is frustrating to work with.
The episode we're doing today is the 4th episode, and that is when they drop the premise, and it's barely a premise up to that. So up to that point, like in the beginning, cold open, Dr. Weird releases a creature, and then the Aqua Teens have to deal with it. They usually deal with it by not dealing with it, and like the main joke of the show, like the sort of meta joke, is the opening is very dynamic. They're solving crimes, they're fighting villains, but then it's just like a smash cut to Shake watching TV or Meatwad staring off into space. Like it's a very domestic show, despite all the crazy stuff happening, despite how the opening misleads you.
It's really a show about shitty roommates, and that's
It
what
really is, yeah.
That's how I came to finally understand the show. Now that I have, when I first started watching the show, I had moved out of my house, and now I know what it's like to no, it's about people in your 20s living with a roommate, and you're both kind of unformed humans who aren't ready for the responsibility, but you're shitty to each other, and you're both kind of having a competition of, well, who can be the most selfish or mean to the other.
And they are not,
you still hang out with them, even though you don't really like them, but you're like, I guess we're friends. Like, I guess legally we're friends.
It's the real hot couch era of people's lives. To steal a turd from Chabo Trap House.
Yes.
But they're not teens. I should point out they're not teens. One of my favorite quotes from Shake is, I am 30 or 40 years old, and I do not need this right now. I gift that all the time because I am 30 or 40 years old, and I don't need this right now.
That's a mood.
Yeah.
Big mood.
Big mood for Master Shake.
Shout out to Steve Yurko, who he and I are both both 29, about to turn 30, and we are both like ready and raring to use that gift.
You
We've had
whippersnappers.
actual conversations about this.
Let's talk about the creators again. I didn't realize this until I doing research, but they wrote every episode together. Like they are the
That's
brains.
pretty cool.
Yes.
I didn't know. I would have figured they'd start, especially for like the 11th and 10th season. They'd be like, let's just hire guys.
All 140, baby. So Dave Willis, he was hired in 1995 by Ghost Planet Industries, and that later became William Street, to write for Cartoon Planet, and then he later moved on to Space Ghost Coast to Coast. And he is the voice of Carl, Meatwad, and various other characters. On this episode, he is Ignignokt. If you know what his voice sounds like, you can kind of pick out who he is. He's a kind of a really good voice actor, I think.
He is very underrated as a voice actor, I think.
Especially as Carl and Meatwad. Carl is, I mean, they're both treats to listen to.
You wouldn't think
They
Carl
brought Carl onto Steven Universe because it's one of the greatest voices ever.
Dave Willis is great in the things he does, and this also really set the tone of saving money by voicing your own cartoon, which Venture Brothers also did as well. Dave Willis, like the Venture Brothers guys, is an amazing voice actor who just does all these characters, and he's so great in other shows, which I think really gives you an appreciation for him, because like you hear him on basically doing Carl, except a more realistic human Carl as his character Andy DeMeo on Steven Universe. Also as Barry on Archer, he is so
you're
good.
right. Oh God, you're right.
Yeah.
Dave Willis, he co-created other series, and his other series on Adult Swim are like, what if Aqua Teen Hunger Force was meaner, the characters hated each other more, and more characters died at the end? So those shows are Squidbillies, which I love. I love it so much. It's so disgusting.
Me too. I'm a big fan of that show.
And the live action show Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell, which is so good. It's coming back for a fourth season.
So fucking good. It's like one of the funniest shows on television.
I feel like it's a real successor to shows I love, like Strangers with Candy. It's up on that level.
Yeah.
Henry, you need to watch it. It's so good.
I will.
And,
Squidbillies is the meanest fucking show.
It's so
Like,
mean, but
the horrible things they do to that grandmother in that show, and the son. It's very similar to Aqua Teen, except even meaner. Of like, if you show even a shred of humanity or like need for affection, you are like stabbed to death.
yes,
Like,
but oh man, so many great voices on that show. God, we gotta do Squidbillies. I think it's still going on too.
Dana Snyder as well. Very.
Where's
good in
my
that.
Squidbillies movie? I want it. God, they would just.
Oh,
burn.
and R.I.P. to what's his name, the sheriff.
Charles Napier.
Yeah, Charles Napier.
Yeah, Charles Napier.
He was only the sheriff for the first season. I don't know what happened. Maybe he just realized what he was doing.
He was getting worse off his time. I mean,
he was sick.
He didn't die overnight. Like,
It's your last. It was your last chance to hear Duke Phillips. But man, I've said it before. But the guy that got to replace him, they found someone who sounded just like Charles Napier. It's amazing.
that guy should just be.
I didn't even know
Phillips,
for a
so-
long time. And also, speaking of Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell, which everyone should absolutely watch, I recently saw Craig Rowan, who plays Claude on that, do improv, and it was just astounding. Like one of the funniest people I've ever seen do improv.
Oh yeah, and Henry Zabrowski from that show is also on the great podcast Last Podcast on the Left. So yeah, he does some great stuff. Also, the co-creator Matt Malero. Again, there's 43 vowels in his name. It's Malero. So he met Mike Lazo when he was working at TBS. That's how far back he goes in the Turner
Jesus Christ.
Broadcasting family. And I think they were both answering a viewer mail for TBS at the time, or maybe he just was. It was hard to tell from the history I read. But again, he was also a Space Ghost Coast to Coast writer, and that's where he met Dave Willis. And I think he is the more artistically driven of the pair. He actually released a graphic novel in 2012. I believe he's behind some of the art on Aqua Teen, although a lot of it is the late C. Martin Croker.
So with Malero, I love them as a pair. Willis and Malero, I listened to them in like multiple interviews. They were both kind of like snotty, like slackery answers to stuff they both give. But eventually Willis would be the one of like, well, no, okay, here's the real answer. But Malero would still keep going like, I don't like that. No.
He seems
Like,
to be
he
the
just
more
goes nothing.
He seems to be the more aloof weirdo because again, I didn't say this before. He's also the creator of 12 Ounce Mouse.
That is the weird, like that was the too far moment for me on Adult Swim. I was like, I can't watch this. This is nothing. Like, this is nothing.
Apparently, there's something there. People like it. It came back like Harvey Birdman for a special this fall.
Really?
And they're making another season of it in 2020. So
Well,
there are fans of it now.
Well, Willis and Malero, too, they both have the energy of the musician stoner who's just like, yeah, but I'm really a musician.
Oh,
They
yeah.
just play their guitar. Like, and 12 Ounce Mouse is exactly that. Like,
Malero is a musician. When you hear 12 Ounce Mouse shredding in those episodes, it's him. It's him shredding on his guitar.
well, and they have musical solos for like minutes on that show. You're like, and you're just watching a static image of a mouse move its arm slightly, and you're just like,
A stick figure
what is
drawing. drawing.
this? Yeah. What is this shit?
I'm pretty sure when Dr. Weird is shredding in this episode, it is Matt Malero playing a guitar. It
I
has
feel
to be.
pretty sure of that. That's funny too.
Sometimes on Aqua Teen commentaries, they just have like a guitar in the room.
yeah.
You just hear one of them like plinking at it, or sometimes they just play it for a while. And I remember being a kid and being like, did I hit the wrong sound option or something?
That's so weird too that they ended up with Malaro and Brendan Small, like independent of each other, these two comedian guitar freaks. Brendan Small said this before, but if you in the late 90s were learning how to shred, you weren't cool. Like the cool thing was to be okay at a guitar and be grungy.
Play 3 chords and that's all you know?
Yeah.
So
And
starting,
Doc Hammer. Yeah, I'd put him in that too. He's
yeah.
also
Oh,
a
yeah.
weird guitar guy.
I mean, he is another artist weirdo that ended up on an Adult Swim show. But so starting in the 8th season in 2011, the series would have a new title and opening every year, but the premise didn't change. It was more part of the joke, and every year was more and more dynamic. I think one of the last years it was just like an anime opening, which is great.
Yeah, I love those. That's another of the great Malero and Willis being shitty things that is also hilarious. He's Perfect Hair Forever.
Oh yeah,
They hated anime. They thought all anime was garbage on their channel. And so they're like, anybody can make this fucking anime shit here. Perfect Hair Forever. It doesn't fucking matter. None of the story is important. Fuck it.
I have a soft spot for it, even though it is a kind of racist.
Yeah.
maybe a lot racist in a naive way. Let's just say they weren't hateful about it.
Sure.
Yes. Let's move on. So the series, animated by Radical Axis in Atlanta, they were founded in 2000 and would go on to animate a lot of the shows of this animation style, like Squidbillies, Perfect Hair Forever. They now animate Archer. I believe they always animated Archer, but yeah, they're an animation company who does this style of animation. They've gotten a lot better since these early beginnings.
When you see current Archer, you see how much they've grown for sure.
Yeah.
In 20 years. I would hope they'd grow in 20 years of animation.
And it's funny because I was watching newer episodes of Aqua Teen on Hulu, some of the later seasons, and the Master Shake, Frylock, and Meatwad assets, in quotes, are of a lower resolution than the new things that they drew. So you can see like they're a little fuzzier, they're not as clearly defined. So it is very, very weird. You could see how the technology evolved, but the initial characters never could because they
I
kept...
love that they drew all the backgrounds and stuff as like not meant to be zoomed in on. So when older episodes, whenever there's a close up on someone, you look at the background, there's like JPEG artifacting on it.
Yeah. You could see all the artifacts on those. But yeah, so this series, it really starts with defined art assets and some canned animations. It's sort of like, it reminds me of games like Phoenix Wright, where it's like, we have programmed the characters to do these 4 animations, use those in various contexts to give them new meaning. Occasionally, they would animate new things. I think as the series would go on, they would be way more ambitious with, adding new animations to the characters, making new characters. There's usually a new character in every episode with new animations.
Well, C. Martin Croker can only draw so much.
That's
you
true.
know?
God, that poor guy. That
I feel
poor
so
guy.
bad that everyone should read the Cartoon Brew article about the last days of C. Martin Croker. He sounded like he helped define the look and feel of Adult Swim as much as anybody did in those early years, and that he kind of died penniless without health care is pretty sad.
Not cool at all, Adult Swim.
But hey, the show.
They would also even like steal assets sometimes. Like the mall they go through in the first episode is from, I think, the pilot to Powerpuff Girls. It's somewhere taken
It's
from
called
Powerpuff
the
Girls.
Powerpuff Mall,
And it's in this episode too, yeah. But yeah, so I think I was watching the show and paying close attention with headphones. It's just like Space Ghost in that the trick of the show is the soundscape is very dense and complicated, and it sort of works in concert with the very limited animation to make you think you're seeing more, to make you think there's more going on. There's really not a lot going on, but I gotta say the Foley on this show is so good. One of the things I love the most, one of the little inside jokes, is whenever someone throws something, it explodes. No matter what it is, and it's usually Master Shake that is throwing things and they're just exploding.
One of my favorite runners on it is whenever there's fire, it's always the same fire animation.
Yeah, it's like ripped from a Duke Nukem game or something.
Yes. And if they need a bigger fire, they just stack them on top of each other over and over again.
I love it.
Or another of my favorite running gags is that I feel like they were handed animation of this really good animation of Meatwad transforming into an igloo or a hot dog, but the writers are like, there's no reason for us to write him to do that. He just rolls around and says stuff. So they have to make up things of saying like, oh, you mean like this? And then he transforms like, no, not like that. He's like, oh, like this. Like, could you transform into something else?
His transformations never actually help anything. They usually waste time. I want to talk about the voice cast. We talked about Dave Willis, who is Meatwad and Carl. So number one on my list, past him, is Dana Snyder, the voice of Master Shake. I don't know how he wasn't a voice actor before this. His voice is amazing. His line readings are so good and unique. One of my favorites in this one is, like, he will take a normal line, like, what are you doing here? And make it just weird. Like, I don't know if I have the clip, but he's like, Frylock, what are you doing here? I can't even do it right because his voice is so unique and awesome. Dana Snyder rules, and he went on to do so many more voices, and he's still doing voices. He's also on live action stuff like Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell. He owns.
Dana Snyder is great.
He was a theater guy before that. He was like doing theater in I think Florida. He's partly from, or like he's from the South somewhere.
Are you thinking of Carrie
He's talking about
Means?
on his podcast,
Okay.
Drunk on Disney.
I know he grew up in Las Vegas because when they were looking for Master Shake voices, I believe Dave Willis's, a friend of his girlfriend's at the time, was like, oh, you got to meet this guy named Dana Snyder. He thinks he's Phil Silvers. And when they're talking about Dana Snyder in these commentaries and in these oral histories, they're like, Dana Snyder's style of comedy is way different than our style of anti-comedy. He loves Don Rickles. He loves 60s nightclub comedians. He wanted to be that. And when you're listening to these clips, just think Dana Snyder in this episode is 28 years old.
Whoa.
This voice is coming out of somebody in their 20s.
Whoa, that is crazy.
I think I didn't know that until his podcast. I think I always thought he was like 50. And then I learned like, oh wait, he's not from like vaudeville. Like he's a modern man.
That makes Shake work so well because you have these deliveries in a like Borscht Belt style surrounded by anti-comedy, and just so it makes it stand out all the more. I love his deliveries of like just yelling at people. I rewatched another of my favorites, the shaving, the Halloween one, and the way he just like yells at him like, God, you gay. You're the gayest thing since Gay came to Gay Town. Like, and when he goes upstairs and sees what's in the attic, he goes like, hey, I got this. Oh God, no. Oh God.
Is that the one with Willie Nelson or Blood Feast Island Man?
Willie Nelson, yes. Voiced by
Who I thought
Tom
was Kevin Smith
Sharpling.
for the longest time, and it's not.
You thought it was who?
I thought it was Kevin Smith for a long time.
Did he ever do an Aqua Teen voice?
Yeah,
No,
I think so.
not to my knowledge. Did he?
Not that I'm aware of. I know, but yeah, it was another true New Jerseyite, Tom Sharpling, who is now Greg Universe.
Perfect.
Which makes it even better that they played cousins on Steven Universe, Tom and Dave Willis, who I think are good buddies. Like Dave Willis has been a call-in. Some of his funniest shit is calling into The Best Show, Tom Sharpling's long-running podcast.
So yes, he is or was. I don't know if he's still doing stand-up, but he was a stand-up. And again, Master Shake is his first acting role, as a voice actor, and he's amazing out of the gates. And I have to say, he had a very boring podcast with Ken Plune. I'm sorry, guys. It was the early days of podcasts when there were like 13 podcasts, so I listened to it. A lot of the time, it was just them looking stuff up on Wikipedia and seeing where that would take them. But
You that off the mic, guys.
Yes, but I mean, it was 2008. There were 13 podcasts, but I listened to it just to hear Dana Snyder talk. And apparently he has Drunk on Disney. That's a newer podcast he's been doing or did.
It's been like 5 or 6 years at this point, but I've been a pretty consistent, a little on and off lately, but I was on it right at the start because I love Dana Snyder and I'm a big theme park nerd. It is also often very, very boring, but when he gets on like telling a real story or when he's just been to one of the parks and is telling stories about that, it's really, really fun and interesting. And they also, every episode it used to be they'd make one of the drinks from the parks that you could get, like from a Disney park. But now I think they've run through them all. And I think now they just make up a new drink a lot of the time.
I remember on the Ken Petey Snidecast, it's now defunct, but it was an early episode and Dana was doing a lot of Disney Channel shows, a lot of Disney Channel walk-ons or whatever. And I remember, I thought it was funny that he said it on a podcast. They didn't edit it out. He called Demi Lovato a real C-word.
Whoa.
When she was a teen actor.
Whoa.
Because she was a little snotty teen, and now she's having a lot of problems. But I was like, you just call a child the C word. That's hilarious, Dana Snyder. It was Master Shake saying it.
Yeah.
He made it funny.
It's just always his voice.
Yes.
He never not. I love him in everything he does, like his appearance on Venture Brothers. Also, he's a recurring character on OKKO as well.
Oh, yeah.
But every time I hear him, I'm like, on an OKKO, he does a voice, like he puts on an accent. But I'm still just like, Master Shake is talking here. Like,
Yeah. I mean, again, he's one of those those guys, like, I would pay for him to read the phone book. He just has so many great inflections, so many unique readings.
And also Chowder, he was great on there, and he's been great as many characters on the Venture Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to announce anything because this isn't even close to official yet, but you could be hearing him on a certain Patreon podcast at a
ours?
certain point in the new year.
Wait, is Dan Snyder showing up, Henry?
Maybe, but
No,
another
no.
one that someone who listens to this might enjoy. You may get to hear him a little bit.
We
soon,
got to scoop Matthew. Yeah, you brought up Chowder. That's another great cartoon people have forgotten about of the Flapjack era. You Adventure Time people.
Yeah, I'm
you act
sorry.
like the world began with Adventure Time.
I turned off Cartoon Network from 2002 until Adventure Time started again. So Chowder and Flapjack to me are both like, oh, these codename Kids Next Door type bullshit, or that's a fine show too.
Code Lyoko. So the guy who plays Frylock is Kerry Means, and you might have heard him before this on the network doing promos for things like Samurai Jack.
Oh, yeah.
Toonami.
Samurai Jack. That was him.
That was him. Yeah, he had a very distinct voice. He's got an amazing voice. It shouldn't surprise you that he is a theater actor, and he mainly does theater. Like Frylock and like two other things are his only voice acting roles, and he was Frylock for 15 years. I don't think paid very well because he recently had an Indiegogo to take care of some health benefits. And it's funny that, again,
sad.
non-union stuff, and in one of their old histories, Dave Willis is talking about, it's like, 40 years from now when my grandkids are asking me, what is Aqua Teen Grandpop? I'll say, boy, I wish I got royalties from that. So yeah, I think like as cool as Adult Swim is, they don't pay very well.
The man,
Now, Gary was kind of the first one of the. He was like the first C. Martin Croker story. That was a story like years and years ago, like over 10 years ago, that got almost no press of that he was like not doing well and was very poor. And then recently did that in Indiegogo, but he's been not doing well for like a long time.
that is sad, and that, especially when like Adult Swim has made so much money off of Aqua Teen and will rerun it forever and always make money. Like they probably made 5 cents off of me today just from watching the show on their Adult Swim website.
And it's great. He's great as Frylock. Frylock starts as a boring kind of straight man character that's necessary in this crazy world, but eventually they develop more to him very early on. Like he is sort of just a sad nerd with no friends. He resents everybody and everything around him, and he's got a darkness to him too, which I like. I like that they did more with Frylock.
The show, it does Flanderize so quick, though, that basically everyone becomes a sociopathic murderer by about episode 50. They're all like, no, we'd all kill each other, like, and not even care.
Yeah, like Carl starts as a put upon neighbor, but later he's like killing sex workers
Yes.
and, organizing hits on people and things like that with the mafia. It goes pretty crazy pretty fast. But we can't finish this chat about the Aqua Teen Hunger Force history without talking about Aqua Teen Hunger Force, movie film for theaters, which hit theaters April 2007. Can you believe this was a movie? I went to see it for the sheer novelty value, which was like, I'm going to watch this limited animation on a huge screen with 8 other people. I got to say, it was awesome. I can't tell you a thing that happened, and I wasn't high.
Boy.
I remember an exercise machine, and I remember the first 11 minutes real well. And I remember my opinion being that movie should have been 11 minutes long and not enjoying the next, 80 minutes or whatever quite as much. But
I think
I remember kind of liking it.
Even characters will remark in the movie how things are taking too long. I remember there's like a lot of commentary like, can you believe this is still happening?
Well, I also remember they, on commentaries, are like, we have a deleted movie, like not deleted scenes, but an entire other movie of this movie that we just cut out because we're like, this isn't working. Like, that's why I think there was at least 2 episodes of the show where they were just like, look, let's just put this thing we cut from the movie into the show. Like this scene in the movie. The opening of it, the Let's All Go to the Lobby parody, I remember that. And I remember something involving Andy Merrill's space alien character and his butt. I think he has sex with the other alien.
And they do go into the origin story of the Aqua Teen Hunger Force too, which doesn't matter because nothing in the show matters. But yeah,
Tina Fey's their mom or something.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah,
there are no women on Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Yeah,
I think the only model they had of a woman for the longest time was a sex worker.
They're either strippers or sex workers.
Yes, yeah.
Or I think Scott Thompson playing a woman maybe at some point.
They did
But yeah, they made this into that's how big this show was. They made it into a movie. The movie was very profitable, even though it didn't make that much money.
It made nickels in the theaters, but it cost nothing.
It cost less than $1 million to make. And again, no other Adult Swim show had a movie. I don't even think, okay, possibly Rick and Morty might have a movie, but
Tim and Eric.
Tim and Eric. Oh yeah, you're right. How did we
yeah.
forget about, that's another movie I saw in the theater that was like, I can't believe this is a movie and it's taken way too long.
I could not stomach that film. That was like, nope, this is where the too far has come for me, Tim and Eric. I'm sorry.
It's another case of
I
what
like
can we
that
get
movie.
away with. But yeah, thank you, Matthew. I totally forgot. Tim and Eric is the other Adult Swim movie that was just like 3 or 4 years after this. But this was the first one. And I want to say maybe Rick and Morty will have a movie, but I think they're just too busy producing 100 episodes of Rick and Morty to work on a movie too.
I think they'll make a movie after that, probably when it's cooled off as much as possible, like they're doing with The Walking Dead now.
Oh,
Did you hear this, Bob? You hear this?
I'm resentful of all of this.
Why make a Walking Dead movie when it's the hottest show on TV? You gotta wait until it's cooled off so much and nobody cares, not a decade into it.
Just make it right for Crackle or something. I don't know.
Look, it doesn't matter. We all live in a simulation. Nihilism rules. Pickle Rick.
Pickle Rick.
I'm Pickle Rick. I'm hilarious. Any other thoughts on this? I had a fun theory. I want to hear what you guys have to say about Aqua Teen before we get into the episode.
The last thing I'll say about Aqua Teen that I loved about it and that really pulled me into it as a comedy nerd was that it was a very guest-driven show. They didn't always have guests, and Dave Willis often played the best villain of the week on the show. But when they had guests like Patton Oswalt, David Cross, and Andy Merrill, Tom Sharpling, all these guys, I was like, Danzig, Todd Barry as well. All these comedians.
Seth MacFarlane?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Quizmaster. He was good at it.
He was
good.
really good
Yeah.
as a Quizmaster.
He's
It
a
was
good
the
voice
first,
actor.
Like post-cancellation Family Guy appearance by him somewhere. He did a lot of stuff with Adult Swim during that time.
That's true. So all those guest stars really brought me into. I just loved every voice, and that they would basically be playing themselves, but also like an asshole version of themselves, just yelling at each other. It is the yelling at each other show, and it's always funny to me.
I really love noisy cartoons. This is one of them. Any other thoughts on the series, Matthew, as a whole?
Yeah, I feel like this show, for what it did for comedy and what it did for Adult Swim, I often say this, I've said on many podcasts, that Adult Swim, as far as I'm concerned, is the biggest influence of the last 20 years on the modern American sense of humor and what shows have been made since that. I feel like there's DNA in every popular sitcom, particularly if it's on cable. Like, I think Detroiters has Adult Swim DNA in it, and that's a popular, awesome show.
Oh yeah,
and I think Aqua Teen is like, I'm sure Space Ghost is ground zero for that, but Aqua Teen is like almost entirely forgotten, and yet is like, it was, I think, hugely influential on the way our generation sees comedy, and I think that it doesn't get the credit that it deserves because other shows that have come since it have like just been more popular. I guess I didn't know if people think of Adult Swim anymore, but I think when they do, they think Rick and Morty, which I think people think of as like a Hulu show more than an Adult Swim show, even though this year was Adult Swim's best year in like years. They made so many great shows, like Joe Parra Talks with You. Another show that I want to mention, have you guys seen Hot Streets? Are you familiar with that at all?
No, I haven't seen that. I do love Joe Parra, but I haven't seen Hot Streets.
I know it's Rick and Morty adjacent. It's like a Justin Roiland production company show.
Yeah, Justin Roiland's on it, and it's made by this guy, Brian Weissel, who worked on Rick and Morty and a bunch of other shows. And it's, me and a couple other people have said about it, it feels like a year one Adult Swim show. It totally does. So I recommend everyone check it out. Season 1's on their app for free. I don't know if it's anywhere else.
I will have to check it out.
It's good. I really recommend it. It's really, and JD Riznar is the main character, which is fucking hilarious.
Jeez.
But it's also, Aqua Teen is just, I feel like it deserves more credit. And if you're like a modern comedy fan, or you're a modern Adult Swim fan, or even just a modern like animation fan, and you've never seen it, go back and watch the old episodes. It's a real hard sell. It might be really tough for you to stomach it, but please watch it.
I don't think it ever got bad because I've never really seen the later. Like, I kind of checked out after the movie, so I haven't seen like half of the episodes, but they have the last two on Adult Swim. I watched like 4 or 5 of them. Like, this is still as funny as I remember. It's not bad. It was still like doing all the stuff it did that made me laugh originally 17 years ago.
I tuned in for the finale and then the actual last episode too, and checked back in. Like, no, this is still great. And just as like the final, what was billed as the final episode is so funny. And honestly kind of heartfelt and has a great parting shot on they all moved out of the house, but Willie Nelson is still there. He just walks out. But then, of course, even better in total Aqua Teen anti-comedy style, they make that the last episode, and then the real last episode is them becoming Highlanders and killing Christopher Lambert, or being tried for his murder when actually he turned into 5 white doves. And so they've all been sentenced to death, but they can't be killed because they're now immortal.
That's amazing.
And that was only on the website, right? Didn't you have to go to the website to watch
it's on
that?
Hulu now, but they just like, no, here's the real last episode. Also in that, they have all the villains back for a scene where they're just murdered on screen. They're like, we brought back all the villains, now they're shot in the face.
That's amazing. Yes, so my theory is, before we go on to the episode, I've been getting into regular show lately. Again, like a lot
Great
of people,
show.
I checked out a Cartoon Network at that time in my life. I didn't really know about it. And a friend of the show, Toby Jones, worked on it. It's a great show. My theory is that is Aqua Teen for younger people.
Yeah.
It is about like loser slackers hanging out, and then weird things happen to them. And they sort of have a real...
At the time, I had a theory that it was like he probably pitched it to Adult Swim and then like got it on Cartoon Network, but that wasn't it. He really did he came out of like Flapjack and stuff and just got it made on Cartoon Network, and they did just make their own slacker show where crazy shit happens. And also it probably has 75 times the budget every episode that Aqua Teen ever had.
I'm not saying they were ripping off Aqua Teen. I think Aqua Teen, again, Matthew, they inspired so many creators, and their sense of humor inspired so many people that they had a similar style and attitude going into a kid's cartoon. Like, what if crazy stuff just happened to these slackers?
They go through actual character growth in regular show and become more well-rounded people.
It's not as nihilistic.
No, which is nice, but especially in the first years, like Mordecai he's a very Master Shake type dude.
He really is.
Just moved by his selfishness.
And voiced by the creator.
And that's Rigby.
Oh, you're right.
You mean, no, you got him backwards.
I got it backwards.
He's the raccoon.
Rigby is the Master Shake. Mordecai is Mordecai, I love that character because he knows he's being a slacker and wasting his youth, and he should be doing more, but he's also like, I don't wanna.
Yeah, that show has like an arc and like very strong continuity, and like the comic book is now pulling on that continuity in an interesting way. That show is really something special that I feel like it was popular, but it got really overshadowed by Adventure Time, and I think people should check it out if they haven't.
Yeah, dip back into it. I think it's all on Netflix. One of those.
Yeah,
you have all.
It's on
of them.
Hulu.
Okay, you've got. If you're listening to this, you have all these things. So check them out. We'll be back soon with Mayhem of the Moonanites.
We don't give a damn, yo, this is who we be. Just like the old school rapper, Schoolie D. Moonanite 1, I'm a hard rap singer. Moonanite 2, yo, I flip you the finger. Check it out.
This holiday season, get the gift that rots your mind the whole year round. The Aqua Teen Hunger Force Volume 6 DVD box set, featuring an hour's worth of bonus features and 4 never-before-seen episodes. It's just our special way of saying thanks for watching Adult Swim.
Oh, yeah, no, it's our gift to you. But first you gotta buy it. I got something else for your stocking.
Hey everybody, this is Bob, and I don't need no instructions to know how to rock! And who is here with me today?
Henry Gilbert, and everything I say and do is right.
And we're coming at you live from this pre-recorded podcast to let you all know about the Talking Simpsons Network and how you can help support the shows. So if you go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons and give it the $5 level, our most basic level for bonus content, you can get so many bonus things, bonus mini-series like Talking Critic and Talking Futurama, lots and lots of interviews with Simpsons legendaries and animation superstars. We also have season wrap-ups, deleted scene specials, and our monthly community podcast, Talk to the Audience, and that is all happening at the $5 level at the Talking Simpsons Network at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons Henry. We have a new $10 level reward. Can you let people know all about that?
That is for sure, Bob. Well, so it used to be at the $10 level, you would get a monthly video, and we have over a dozen of those videos still that you will get access to if you sign up for $10 a month. But if you love What a Cartoon but wish we did movies, then you're in luck because we have started a monthly movie What a Cartoon podcast that'll only be available for the $10 and up folks. People at $5 and up will be able to vote on it, and so you'll be able to help us choose which will be our monthly animated movie podcast. The first one is Batman Mask of the Phantasm, the classic Batman animated movie that some still call the best Batman movie ever made. And I am partial to that opinion.
I am as well. So it's happening at the Talking Simpsons Network, and patrons get to vote on what movie we do every month, and it's available for listeners at the $10 level. But again, at the $5 level, there's a lot happening there, lots of bonus podcasts. If you want to give it the $1 level, you will still have access to our monthly community podcast, Talk to the Audience, where we talk about what's happening in the Simpsons world and in our world, and we respond to questions and comments from you, the Patreon listener.
We have dozens and dozens and dozens of podcasts exclusively on there just for you to listen to. You can dig into the backlog right now. Whatever level you sign up for, you get your own exclusive RSS feed that you can put into your podcast listening device of choice and listen away. You don't even have to do it through the Patreon app or the website.
Again, that is the Talking Simpsons Network at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Now we'll let you get back to the adventures of the Fryman.
In the beginning, it was the dream of two brash kids who believed their unique vision could inspire a generation of 18 to 34-year-old males if the males were high enough.
Oh, God!
Now, 7 or 9 years later, the little hot dog show that could is about to crap out its 100th episode. Aqua Teen Hunger Force number 100.
Thank you! I can't believe you remembered!
Next Sunday at midnight.
Get out of my freaking pool!
Y'all ready for this?
So we're back with Mayhem of the Mooninites. It is the 4th episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and the first one to break away from the idea of them solving crimes. And I believe in the various oral histories I read, this is the episode where they say this is where we really got it. This is where we fully understood the point of the show. I don't think the earlier episodes were worse or not fun to watch, but this one is a classic. I read various lists of what are the best episodes. This is often number 1.
You can see the formula really come together here of like a couple of jerks show up and exist in the world of the Aqua Teens and yell at each other until they eventually get killed or blasted in some way.
Meatwad is taken advantage of, Shake doesn't care, and Frylock is trying to solve the problem. And usually Carl is killed or he's also taken advantage of.
Yes, yeah. And the Mooninites are perfect too in that they are animated in a funny way and a very simple way.
Yes.
And then also that they Ignignot and are played on such a fun level of like you have the faux intellectualism and wisdom of Ignignoc. And then meanwhile, just says what they really mean the entire time. Like, and now we're stealing it.
That's kind of like Ur's kind of his hype man in this episode.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, I love it. It was also a little bit of Atari nostalgia back when that was still very fresh, and you would not see that on TV very often, if not at all. Just seeing a parody of those kind of graphics and those kind of games.
It felt special then. Now everything is video games, and I'm sick of it.
I'm sick of the 8-bit era. Let's move on, people. But this
it was kind of like the first one of those. I remember being a little video game nerd, and I was like buying old video games at the time, which wasn't a thing yet. Like the retro game, because you guys with Retronauts didn't make it a thing yet. But
this is back when retro games were cheap. In these years, I remember going to anime conventions and someone had an entire suit made out of Mario Duck Hunt cartridges because they were a penny at used game stores. If you go on to GameStop and look at what that costs now, it's like $20 to $30 to get a Mario Duck Hunt cartridge.
Jesus Christ.
Yes. Sorry, Matthew.
I was buying games on eBay with money orders. I was like sending people money orders because I was a child and didn't have a credit card. But the Moonanites, if you're even like a year younger than me, this totally probably passed you over. But the Moonanites were like huge. They were the biggest thing to come out of this show, I think. Like they were on merchandise. They fucking bombed Boston. Like I'm sure we'll talk about. But like they were everywhere, and they were kind of the mascots of Adult Swim for a little bit. They were so popular.
They were much more easily marketable than Aqua Teen too, because it's just that's why I believe it was the second or third box set of the DVD that was just Ignignot's face, and just squares cut into it. It was not a drawing of the Aqua Teen characters at all. It was being sold by the 8-bit design of the Moonanites. And I think originally they just wanted them to be characters from a video game, but instead, video game came to life.
I think the original idea for the story was that they were the ghosts of the buried Atari cartridges in the desert. But they've realized that's too complicated. Let's give them a different identity and let's move on with what the Moonanites are now.
Their moon worship makes them even funnier.
I love their weird on-the-spot making up moon rules and why the moon is awesome. But as with these early episodes, it opens with Dr. Weird and Steve unveiling something or doing something, and the Moonanites just sort of fly by in this cold opening.
Gentlemen, behold. Are you ready to rock?
I'm ready to
Then
rock.
I'm gonna blow your hair to the back of this auditorium! 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's called Robot Affliction! Yeah!
So in this cold open, Dr. Weird doesn't even unleash the Moonanites or create them. They just sort of fly by this necessary, or I guess network-wise necessary cold opening.
From this point on, Dr. Weird would just be an incredibly random thing. My favorites are when he makes eyes grow out, jump out of his assistant's skull and just walk around. And then the other one is where it's like, behold, my junk, and he just pulls his clothes off and unfurls his penis.
They would only last for 2 seasons, so the third season's cold openings would be a chopped up pilot for something called Space Kataz.
Yes.
Which would feature the Moonanites and the German aliens, one voiced by Andy Merrill.
Right.
But that never became a series because I guess there was just nowhere to go from that one episode. After this follows the amazing Schooly D opening song. It's so good. Find the full version. I was an ultra cool dude driving around in my car playing this on my CD player
living like
in
a star.
2001, and the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack. Boy, it was a real P-Wagon I was driving around in. Again, the P stands for hitting play on your fan subs. I'm not disgusting.
I think I remember Dave Willis joking about that theme song. He's like, very obviously, Schooly D had no clue what the show was about, and he was given a list of one characteristic per character, and he rapped about it.
It's so good, though, and this series has a lot of great music, and they make up songs that often just play over the credits about the characters, and this is where I discovered MC Chris, who I liked a lot for a while. I'm kind of embarrassed by that.
I was just about to bring him up.
It was funny. Yeah, hey, MC Chris was fun at one time.
This is rap, but they're rapping about things I like.
It's a white guy who could be me.
I still know all the words to the Boba Fett rap song. I don't even like Star Wars that much.
Me too. That's MC Chris was because they would find these people at Adult Swim who clearly lived near them and were very affordable. and just like keep bringing them in. And MC Chris was fucking all over the network for a little while. Like he was MC P Pants, he was Hesh on C-Lab. Like anytime a live action segment happened, he'd show up somewhere. Like he played an Adult Swim executive more than once.
That's right.
They, like some like nerdcore guys who go back to like the early MC Front a lot stuff knew who he was, but this really gave us MC Chris.
I'm not really ragging on MC Chris, by the way. I'm sure he's nice. I like his voice, but the idea of like nerd empowerment is disgusting to me now.
I'm fucking sick of it. Can't stand it.
And I say this as a huge, giant nerd. I talk about cartoons for a living and old video games. There's no one nerdier than me.
If you listen to this podcast, you're one of the good nerds.
Yes.
You're not the bad nerds. But yeah, no.
Speaking of Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah. Boy.
So the Mooninites meet Carl.
Hello, Carl. I am Ignignot, and this is
I am
We are Mooninites from the inner core of the moon.
You said it right.
Our race is hundreds of years beyond yours.
Man, do you hear what he's saying?
Some would say that the Earth is our moon.
We're the moon.
That would belittle the name of our moon, which is the moon.
Point is, we're at the center, not you.
No, the real point is, I don't give a damn. Is your ego satisfied?
Damn no.
No.
Look, room for rent.
Yes, room for rent.
I think I pointed out on the Harvey Birdman episode, or maybe one of the other Adult Swim episodes, that when I was watching these, I would record them all, and pre-podcast, I would listen to the audio while I played RPGs. So many of these readings are in my head, like, yes, room for rent. Like, I just remember that it's baked into my head because I listened to this over and over and over again. But I like how they know who Carl is before even really knowing him. Hello, Carl.
That's true. That makes no sense. I did not think about
Yes.
that.
It still gets me every time. Like it's utter nonsense, and I still just fucking crack up whenever I hear them talk.
They just knock on his door to brag about the moon. They just show up.
These space aliens
canvassing.
flew from the moon to yell at this guy to tell about how awesome the moon is and how he sucks. Carl being bedeviled at his front door is a wonderful series of jokes too, but it just the way, God, Dave and Matt are so funny as Enigma and her.
Yeah.
Like these are their alter egos. I think that's another reason they're popular, but I think another reason they came back all the time is because they love playing them, and this is kind of their chemistry of like one speaks for the other all the time.
And yeah, Nicknock is a really fun voice also in this series. And I have to say, so this is very much part of the quote unquote anti-comedy, whatever you want to call it, in which a problem is presented, but the characters don't want to do anything. Like Carl's like, I don't care. And Shake doesn't care either. I just love what they get out of characters refusing to address a problem in this episode, in the series rather.
And God, just the wise, it's so simple, but just the wise delivery of stupid or mean things is just like so, in a way.
And then they're always talking about like the culture of the moon, and they're the only ones who live there, except for Ur's uncle, whose disability check that they stole that gave everyone cancer because it emits radiation.
That's right. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
It's all made up. And then also they're excellent spellers, all the things they list. They
spank people with moon rocks.
This is why this episode, for me, means a lot too, because as a nerd, I really loved introducing friends to a show, partially to tell them, like, I saw this before you. Now it's your favorite show because
Quiet, you're missing the jokes.
Yes. And so Aqua Teen was one of those shows. And when I showed my friends, when I wanted to introduce them to Aqua Teen, I did start with this episode, and this is what made them all fans. Like this, much like when I showed folks the Meeseeks episode of Rick and Morty, that was when they jumped on board. That was when Rick and Morty needed someone to evangelize for them. They now they've got Kanye West in their corner, so they could have no better of a defender there.
Now there's Wubba Lubba Dub Dub pop-up shops happening all over this great country of ours.
I have recently been introducing somebody to the Venture Brothers, and we've been watching all the episodes in order, and I have totally several times been like, you missed a continuity thing, rewind it. And then rewind it several minutes. And then they'll be like, what was it? I'm like, that guy comes back for half a scene 6 years from now.
So we go into the Aqua Teens lair, if you will, their bad house in Jersey. And Shake is renting out Meatwad's room because according to him, sometimes you have to rent a room instead of work. And I love just these weird insults about that Master Shake comes up with, or these weird aggressions he has, where he says he's got an ear infection. And Meatwad's like, I don't see no ear. It's like, you are about to not have a mouth because I'll tear it off.
He's so Master Shake can't exist if he doesn't bully Meatwad. Like that's the only meaning he has in his life.
Just these bizarre insults thought up in the moment out of just pure anger. You are about to not have a mouth because I'll rip it off. How do you rip off a mouth? I don't know. But the Moonanites show up. Shake wants to know what the references are, and they just spin around as like these hip hop beat starts playing. He's very impressed by that, and he takes them to Meatwad's room where they'll be staying.
In here with the grill. And if you want it turned down, you have to start a fight with this little mutant guy right here.
Not anymore.
Now, I'll need a deposit. Yeah, I've seen that. The glowing, it's great. I'm thinking something more money-wise.
Then how does this jam box suit you?
Wait a second.
Bass, treble,
That's mine.
antenna. Yes, I think we can make a deal here.
It's my jam box.
Your jam box is now his by way of our actions.
Yes, Meatwad, with action.
Actions?
Now, look, you guys, if you need anything, just feel free to yell at him until he gets it for you.
He's always messing with me.
Shoot him, the bird.
Yes, give him the finger.
The finger? Like this?
No, not at all like that.
What about this?
Here, let me show you. Hand out the free cigarettes.
We smoke as we shoot the bird.
So they're immediately bad influences. I believe in that scene, Meatwad was turning into a hot dog in an igloo while trying to shoot the bird.
They got to use that animation somehow. And when
I still say Jambox because of that scene.
Shake assessing the boombox, like bass, treble, antenna. Like it's all there.
And he knows it's Meatwad's too. It was just handed to him.
And just the very flowery moon language used to cover up the active still, like your possession is now his by way of the moon.
and also when lights the cigarette, it is the flame animation. It's always, which just comes out of his hand. He doesn't have a lighter. It just fire appears out from it. And two, that Shake is just like, if you need anything, ask him. I'm going away. Like that Shake is stupid and dazzled the first time he sees they're spinning, but the second time he's like, no, I need money.
Money-wise.
Money.
They give him Meatwad's jam box. So like all of the guest characters, they immediately abuse Carl's pool. They come out from swimming and they've got Frylock's towel. Master Shake tells them to drape it over his computer because that thing really heats up. And Frylock comes out to want to know, who are these new guests?
You rented that room to moon people?
We are the Moonanites, and our culture is advanced beyond all that you can possibly comprehend with 100% of your brain.
Oh, is that so? And what's so advanced about it?
Well, for one thing, the moon has 1/3 less gravity than your Earth. I don't know if you can understand that, but our vertical leap is beyond all measurement.
So what you're saying is your culture is more advanced because you can jump higher?
Yes, observe. It's not working here. Come in here. Help me explain our advanced ways. Hurry.
Did you mention the spelling?
Yes, we're excellent spellers. Challenge me.
Challenge us both.
Frylock, don't try to understand them. They're beyond everything. Isn't that right, Eggnog?
All that we say and do is right.
Looks like you got yourself a real couple of winners there, Shake.
You and your third dimension.
What about it?
Oh, nothing. It's cute. We have 5.
1,000.
Yes, 5,000.
Don't question it.
Oh, yeah? Well, I only see 2.
Well, that sounds like a personal problem.
That whole encounter is so great. And I love how checked out Shake is. He thinks the one character's name is Eggnog.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that right, Eggnog?
Which I almost wonder if that's Dana Snyder just like not being able to say the word. And he
By listening to some commentaries and reading oral histories, I learned that they have a script, but then there's a lot of playing around with it because they usually get a lot of people there together. And, Dave Willis and Matt are there, with the actors. So there is very much a lot of playing with it. Dana Snyder loves playing with the lines, too.
There's famously what I would say is maybe a top 5 special feature on a DVD ever, the Space Ghost table read, where is it Dave Willis who is inexplicably just not wearing a shirt?
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
At the same time, they light up cigarettes and they encourage Meatwad as he smokes. And Meatwad also wants whiskey to get tore up, and they decide to go to the mall, and then they can pass out in the hot sun.
I think Enignoc's way of thinking is summed up very well. Just as like everything that we say and do is right. Like they can't be shaken from that. They are the only people that matter on Earth. Like,
and I just love all their bullshit. It's like, we have 5,000.
Well, that sounds like a personal problem. Like, it's such a shitty thing to say.
They're such assholes. They out-asshole even Master Shake, I think, in this episode.
Master Shake is impressed with them, and also Master Shake is too much of a lazy person to even steal. Like, they're more active than him. They want to steal things, and do so whenever they feel like it.
They somehow got Master Shake, Dr. Weird's guitar, and all of his amps too, because now they're all on top of the house.
I don't know how that happened,
but we go to the mall where there is some stealing afoot.
Pick up that stereo and sink it deep within your body.
But then that would be stealing.
Not if you need it. And you need it.
On the moon, Meatwad.
So go get it.
You have advanced beyond rules and manners.
Indeed.
Do you understand?
Yeah. No.
I will spit in your face now.
Prepare to spit. Now do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Now wrap yourself around that rack of DVDs.
Smoke up.
Smoke while you are doing so.
Oh, wait, I'm stuck.
We must go spread our advanced technologies.
Yes, move out.
Yes, move out.
Quickly.
Let's go.
I like how the facade drops when they're in danger, especially when they're being knocked.
Like, we got to go.
Get in here.
Yeah. Boy, look at all those SD televisions and DVDs in this. That's the one. When I turned 20, everything didn't age at all and no time moves forward. But unfortunately, that's not how it is when I actually watch these things and see how dated they are. Like, they should not age at all in time, just like I don't.
And 2001 was a huge year for DVDs, folks.
Oh, my goodness, man. Just being able to buy a DVD that had TV shows on it with a bonus feature.
They were flying off the shelves, hurting thousands DVDs. It was very dangerous.
I was
time
so
to be
excited
alive.
for the Aqua Teen DVD. It was like it's like probably one of the best days of my tween years was when that DVD was released, and my friends and I just watched the absolute crap out of it with and without commentaries. It's probably like, I bet The Simpsons season 1 and 2 are the only things to ever beat how much I watched Aqua Teen. Maybe Venture Brothers season 1 and 2, but I think even that couldn't crack it.
No, there was a time, I think there are YouTube video channels that are just this now, but there was a time when like new DVD day at Best Buy was
it Tuesday?
Yeah, it was Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it was so important to me. I was like, well, Best Buy will have the lowest price. And I gotta get the new season of whatever, usually an Aqua Teen one. The greatest day ever was when I went to Best Buy on a Sunday and somebody in the storeroom fucked up and put out the Venture Brothers season 1 DVD.
Oh, they broke
2
street date.
days early, and I got to buy it then. Oh, what a sweet. It made those bonus features all the funnier because I was enjoying it before other people did.
So Meatwad is arrested. He's in jail. Frylock has to call the cops and tell him he's a living thing. Don't throw him away. Like Billy Master Shake says, let him rot. Oh, wait. He already has. You'll find out.
You'll find out.
And the Mooninites have keyed the moon rules into Carl's car.
That is one of the greatest forms of expression of affection.
Gouging expletives into somebody's car.
And then Meatwad, I do like that they spit on Meatwad until he agrees with him. Like that's an effective strategy. They're like, well, you do what we say, we'll spit on you until you do it.
And when Frylock goes to bust Meatwad out of jail, the Mooninites call him a nerd, and they explain what they do to nerds on the moon. And I think Shake at this point is getting sick of them talking about the moon. It's like, you guys should talk a lot about the moon.
Yeah, I love that too. Like, man, you guys should talk a lot about the moon. That he is sick of it too. He's like, look, you guys are selfish and all, but I don't care.
He's sick of the moon. But yeah, I guess nerds get their pants pulled down and they're spanked with moon rocks.
Yes, yeah. The ultimate punishment. Well, I think that shows too what's the difference between the Mooninites and Shake. The Mooninites are very prideful about their home, and Shake doesn't care about anything but himself. Like even the moon is the moon is more important to them than themselves sometimes.
I think he only likes the Mooninites because they're fucking with Meatwad.
And they steal things and give it to him. I mean, that's important too.
They're the most generous people he's ever known.
Exactly.
So Frylock gets Meatwad from jail, and Meatwad is showing off his new clown tattoo.
Look, Earl gave me a tattoo. For the man put me on ice. It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, that's really tough, Meatwad.
It's a clown, and it symbolizes street warfare. See, I'm part of the clowns now, you dig?
Look, Meatwad, you're a detective. You're sworn to uphold the law.
Whose law? Your law, mine, Joker. Hey, where's my running crew? You running cool.
That tattoo quickly disappears from Meatwad.
I think the ink just falls back into his meat, his globs of meat.
Yeah.
But
you can't really kill Meatwad. You can shoot holes in him. You can run him over. He's immortal.
I do love his yoo-hoo running crew. It's just so sweet.
It's very cute.
And yeah, I love moments where Frylock is not just a straight man, but also he's like, please remember the premise of this show. And everybody's like, fuck you, man.
And he's also sort of like being Meatwad's dad at the same time.
Yes, yeah. Well, it is. I mean, it's a real family dynamic. Frylock is the mom, and Shake is the deadbeat dad.
That's true. Wow.
And Meatwad's the baby.
Frylock is the mom. That's right. So they finally have a confrontation with Carl, and they show off their main weapon.
20 seconds! It's a new world record! Oh.
23 seconds.
That is the new moon record.
Then it shall be so.
Now and forever.
New moon record. That's funny.
Hey, Carl.
So maybe you'll be a good person to ask who wrote The Moon Rules. Number 1 on my car with a cake.
Whoa,
If you have a problem with that, maybe you should take it up with Mr. Laser.
Yeah, Mr. Laser.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
You will be destroyed.
You're going
The
down.
explosion will be of extraordinary magnitude. Just hang on.
It takes a while.
Nice shot there, Brickout. Now I want you jokers out of this. Oh, God, my back!
So they shoot a giant pixel at Carl. It bounces off this house and hits him in the back.
So when he calls them Brickout, is that meant to be a Breakout reference?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think a version of Breakout was called Brickout because they made 9,000 rip-offs of Breakout.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Invented by Steve
remember
Jobs
Breakout.
and Steve Wozniak. The Breakout
My
series.
school computer had one called Brickout.
Okay.
It definitely existed. I don't know how official it was.
It's such a clever Breakout, Arkanoid, whatever you want to call it, is such a cool idea of just, it's so simple. It's, what if you played Pong by yourself and you just bounced it off the wall until you destroyed the wall? That's more fun than Pong, quite honestly.
It's way more fun than Pong.
Yeah, and that is what helped pay for the founding of Apple Computers, with Steve Wozniak doing all the work and Steve Jobs collecting the big bonus behind Steve Wozniak's back, which would set the tone for their entire relationship.
You got to pay for those turtlenecks somehow, man.
Steve Jobs is God, man. I fucking Steve Jobs. Boo.
He made every
boo.
boss 1,000 times worse.
Yeah, even if he made good things or caused good to happen within his company, he made every asshole boss think they're like, well, no, I'm like Steve Jobs. I'm a problem solver. You do the thing. I'm the brains here.
I need to be a tyrant who thinks outside the box.
I'll scream at employees till they make things for me.
Every book about the history of video games, the first chapter should just be called Steve Jobs is an Asshole.
And also that, like, because Steve Jobs invented it, they offered Nolan Bushnell a chance to get in on the ground floor of Apple Computers. He's like, no, I'm not investing in that. He really regrets that. And I'm kind of, for all the people Nolan Bushnell kind of screwed over, I'm kind of glad he has that giant regret weighing on him forever. But poor Carl, it wouldn't be an Aqua Teen Hunger Force episode if Carl didn't get murdered or killed in some way.
He's treated he's not actually killed in this, which is, much more respectful to Carl than they normally are.
They haven't gotten allowed to, like, rip him into bloody shreds.
Yeah, rip flesh off of him, or turn him into a clown creature. All the many deaths of Carl. Frylock wants to talk to them, but they will only talk to Frylock while they're watching TV. He's like, you should speak to us as we watch television. And it's another one of those moments on Aqua Teen where they're watching a live action thing. I guess it's Vegetable Man.
Yeah, I think it's a short film that Willis and Milaro just made, and so they let him use on the show.
But we played that clip
There's
with
a couple of those, like the Dracula one. Also, they're also on the DVDs unedited, and you can just watch them.
Oh yeah, Assisted Living Dracula.
Yeah.
And I love. We played the clip at the beginning of the show, but Shake has seen this before. He's like, "Yeah, that's Vegetable Man." Like he knows what it is. But Frylock is sick of all this shit, and so he uses his fry powers to explode the TV.
What was that?
Whoa, did those just come out of your eyes?
They're primitive.
Damn, those are fast, man.
We are not impressed.
Hey, wasn't that cool?
Get the other one.
The plasma screen or the high def?
Plasma screen.
No, don't go get the other one because it's stolen. Just like the guitar and the jam box and everything in that big pile over there.
Then we shall take it outside.
Oh, that's fine. We'll go outside. Come on, let's go right now.
Yeah, because I don't want any of this stuff smashed. It's new and expensive.
I'm gonna wring your pants.
So yeah, Frylock does kick ass sometimes. He does have magic powers. I guess his jewel
He's
is the
only
source
one,
of them.
He's the only one who can do anything, really. And I like that. I also love the Moonanites barely containing their being impressed by the power of Frylock. They still want
And
to big
afraid.
time him. Yeah, and scared. But right before that, Ignignot's announcement of, we don't listen to people who don't like us.
Sound like a beetle there a little bit.
It was.
So
yes.
wait, is Frylock one of the crystal gems? Have we talked about this?
Man, have we? I think that did come up on the Steven Universe episode.
Yeah.
He's definitely powered by a gem, but when his gem is damaged, he doesn't poof. So that is one of the main rules of being a crystal gem. But definitely his gem has a power. I love the accessories they just draw on Frylock that they had no reasoning for when they drew it the first time, of just like his lightning bolt tattoo under his left eye and then the gem on his back.
He has braces.
Oh, and his braces too. It's one accessory too many, though. That's what I like about it. And I also like in the episode where he gets cancer that he starts losing his hair, which is his fries.
Yes. Very serious episode. So yeah, there's a smash cut to Frylock just holding the Moonanites down to the hot pavement with his fries. And then Meatwad comes in, knocks Frylock off, and Meatwad explains what he's been doing. He's been made to wallow in an ant pile. He's been taught how to make a shiv out of a bedpost and how to get rid of a hangover. And he really wants to know if the Moonanites are his friends.
You guys been doing nothing to hurt me, right? Ow!
We do whatever we want to whomever we want at all times. Moonanites unite.
Lock in.
No one can defeat the quad laser.
It is over now.
The bullet is enormous. There is no escaping.
Jumping is useless.
Do you guys know how to work this TV? I tried the button, but it doesn't go.
Go back inside.
Oh, you guys are fighting.
We're fighting.
Right.
Okay, Moonanites. Looks like I've got a little moonbeam of my own.
Well, show us the moonbeam. I would love to. Ship, come in. Let us leave this primitive rock because there's nothing but cavemen here.
Yeah, goodbye, caveman. Go beat rocks together, you sissy.
Ship, take off.
Freaking nerds.
Nerds. I hope you can see this because I'm doing it as hard as I can.
And I think they got away with that middle finger because it's just a block with another rectangle sticking out of it.
I think so, yes.
Can you show a middle finger now on Adult Swim?
Oh, for sure.
For a long time,
you totally can.
they were blurred out.
Oh, you remember on Rick and Morty when they landed on
Yeah.
the planet and that was their greeting?
That's
just
right.
throwing middle fingers up.
I watched that yesterday. And also, there was an early Venture Brothers where they broke that barrier. That, when Kano gives the finger when he got beat up by Brock, and that's when I think they decided it's okay. But at this point, it definitely was not okay on television.
That was considered very edgy to have a character just a huge middle finger in the middle of a TV. And I'm doing this as hard as I can was something my friends and I would quote all the time.
It is a great line about the futile anger. It's something like, well, I hope he sees me giving the finger because I'm doing this as hard as I can. Like, it's just like, you're not doing anything. You're running away and giving the finger, but you're like, oh, I'm so tough. I'm doing this as hard as I can.
I really enjoy they have to keep the facade of superiority while they're running in fear. Ship, come in.
Also, the line, one of my favorite moments is when Meatwad said they wouldn't do anything to hurt me. Ow! Like this
Cigarette in the eye.
And then he still has the same dumb smile on his face. He just squints his eye a little bit at it. So that's an important lesson for kids out there. You know, don't think somebody's your friend when they're that mean to you. They're not your friend. Listen to Frylock.
If they make you wallow in an ant pile, they're not your friend. The quad laser is great because they sort of rotate like Tetris blocks and join each other, and then there's like 4 guns pointing out.
It reveals that could always fit into Ignignot's head, which like it is in the first appearance. I was like, boy, I think his head shape is in the same size as the other guy's divot. And then when it paid off in that first episode, I was like, oh, that's cool.
It was a real Voltron moment.
Well, and then the next time, every time they would show back up, they would have a bigger version of that, like the quad glazer, I remember, which was 4 lasers at once. I also love the kind of childlike drawing of the extra extended arm of to make him have a 4th gun that could not run into Ignignot's body. It's so funny and bad looking.
The very awkward arms on those characters are great. But yes, we finally find out in this epilogue what happened to Carl.
Look, Frylock, you know me. Had I known that merchandise had been broken, I would have laid the hammer down. But it was stolen.
So you returned it, right?
No, I decided to keep it all. As a reminder of how lucky I am to live on a planet with people like you.
Hey, what happened at Carl.
Oh boy, this is what I've always wanted.
Silence, nerd.
Prepare for a moon spanking.
Now you drop those sweatpants right now.
And Carl is left on the moon. I love his ads. Like, oh boy, this is what I wanted.
He can't get mad anymore. He's just like,
I think like Dave Willis was talking about Carl's attitude and how it really resonates with people that watch because he's very defeated. He's very realistic. And I think one of his favorite Carl lines is like, "This doesn't matter. None of this matters." when he's being married to that like mail order bride, it's like, just say whatever. Just say whatever. When they're like, "What's her name? What's your name?" It's like, it doesn't matter. None of this matters.
Ratana Nana Deluski.
Yeah.
It's his last name. That's how to spell it.
Ratana Nana Deluski.
I love in that Quizmaster one that he eats, he cannot stop eating chicken wings.
Yeah.
Like it just never stops. Or another of my favorites was the one that it was the Carl focused episode. And when it shows that when the Aqua Teen Hunger Force is not annoying him, he just has nothing. Like he is calling old friends or not even friends, people from his yearbook and annoying them.
He works out of the home.
And he keeps the windows closed. So like, I don't like knowing what time of the day it is.
He's so sad and depressed, and I love when we see inside of his house and how just it's got a very sad life. He pees in a coffee can.
His Firebird is all he has.
Yeah. Oh man, I love Carl so much. There's not a lot of Carl in this episode, but I do love like one of the early ones when I first fell in love with him. He painted flames on the side of his pool. It's like, now it can tear ass all over the backyard, but it's sitting still. Still waters run deep.
I love when he is him and Shake can find common ground sometimes in being impressed with stupid things. Like
they're both scumbags, so they hang out sometimes.
They do. Oh God, Carl's the greatest, and I love that he brought that voice back for Andy DeMeo in the ultimate Thanksgiving episode of Steven Universe, the Gem Harvest, as it were, which came out at the perfect time of the 2016 Thanksgiving of just like, how do you have the Gem Harvest is about the your racist uncle. What do you do with your racist uncle at Thanksgiving? And Steven Universe had the nice message of, well, maybe he'll eventually warm up to your bunch of immigrant lesbian space alien friends. like he literally shows up and goes, immigrants! I knew it. They're a bunch of hippie immigrants right here.
I think it's immigrants.
That's right.
But
they kept Carl going for a long time too. They used to do like usually during football season they'll do like Carl's Ultimate Stone Cold Lock of the Week or something. I think it's got a couple more qualifiers.
It was called as with all these complicated titles, Carl's Lock of the Century of the Week. I'll play one of these clips. I think they did this for like Sports Center. I think these air on ESPN or something like that.
Oh, do they?
But it's basically just Carl animations about him talking about actual live football games.
His one hands up to his head animation.
So I'll just play one of these at random, not the whole thing, but just a little sample of Carl's Lock of the Century of the Week.
This is Carl, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and this is my Stone Cold Lock of the Century. Of the Week. The Eagles are 0-2 after embarrassing losses to bottom-feeder, no-talent teams like the Falcons and the Cowboys. But Carl, ain't your Giants also 0-2 after losing to top-tier loaded rosters like the Falcons and the Cowboys? Well, technically, yes. That's because we got Tom Coughlin, the mummy of the Meadowlands, coaching second-hand manning with the worst clock management this side of a Texas high school.
So that's Carl's Lock of the Century of the Week. Also, Carl is a huge Giants fan. It comes up a lot on the series. And a lot of Carl is from Long Island white trash. I believe Dave Willis had spent some time in Long Island, maybe for college or something like that. But he pulls a lot of Long Island white trash from his upbringing, from wherever he experiences, and puts it into Carl. I've heard nothing but bad things about Long Island, by the way.
Yeah, the worst. This show really talked to your childhood too, right, Matt?
Yeah, this is a Jersey show in some way, even though it moved to Seattle, but nothing changed.
Yes.
Yeah, they moved to Seattle in one of the later seasons with no changes of background or anything. It is a Jersey show, although it is a very North Jersey show, but that's still fine. I've talked on this podcast before about how I don't like that everything Jersey is from North Jersey, not based on anything. Like the only Jersey-ness they actually put into it is Carl being a dirtbag. It's just a punchline. They just think they clearly just thought New Jersey would be the funniest place to put them. I think they might have said Camden once, which is a very New Jersey reference.
Yeah, if you look at the
it's just Jersey in name.
If you see the skyline behind their house, it's just like industrial hell.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
Like they live in the worst place, but they can rent a house, which, hey, that's better than we can do. I guess.
It's true. But this series, guys, I have a feeling this is going to be like our Beavis and Butthead episode. It might annoy you because we are laughing like idiots at stupid jokes. But just like Beavis and Butthead, these are very stupid characters and seemingly stupid ideas, but they are all secretly brilliant and take a lot of work. This is not just Mad Lib writing. This is very, very smart and very, very funny. And I think it is sort of the Beavis and Butthead of that decade. Just like this show that came out of nowhere. Seemingly it's this idiotic premise for dumb people, but it's secretly brilliant and secretly one of the breakout hits of this early idea, this early programming block.
I think there are a lot of animated series that are bad versions of this show that were inspired by it.
Yes, many on Adult Swim.
Yeah, and so you can see what a bad version of this is like, and I think that gives you more appreciation for it. Returning to this, I do like it. Now, are there a lot of jokes in here that are not woke? For sure.
Oh yeah, like
for sure.
Comedy ages like milk, and there's a lot of sexist, transphobic, racist.
Town.
Yeah, a lot of things that aren't super cool.
Yeah, but still,
yeah.
I have to put that in there just so listeners know I'm an SJW.
Yeah,
but it's still
virtue signaling, Henry.
I am. Like, didn't you guys see my virtue? I put up my virtue signal up in the sky. I've got them. But no, yeah, it is a lot of fun to return to it, even if there's some jokes. I'm like, that's a bit too mean. That is why I kind of fell off watching the show post the movie. It became too mean at a certain point for me. I was like, this is just too cruel. I like the goofiness more so than the sociopathic cruelty.
I mean, that's all Squidbillies. That's all Squidbillies is.
Yeah,
which I love it so much.
I can only take about 15 episodes of Squidbillies.
And they were hinting at making more Aqua Teen because it seems like a very cheap show to make. The tools are there, the characters exist, the voice actors are still alive and still available and still cheap. I believe an Adult Swim title card hinted like, maybe we'll make more. So it could come back, and you know what? Make it forever. Like Dave and Matt said, we could write the show forever. We weren't out of ideas. We are so good at writing these characters. We wish we could just do it forever. And I hope they can come back. But if not, there's like so much of it. Matthew, before we go, any final thoughts on Aqua Teen Hunger Force?
Very few shows will ever mean as much to me as this show has and does. Even though it's a show that eventually, because I stopped watching television, I fell off on, I always would catch up and watch all the episodes. I feel like now, even though I am an old, sad, fat man, I can just throw on episodes all the time. Like my sense of humor has changed so much and I've grown so much since I was 12. But this show is always there at that part of my brain. It will always tickle me in that same way, and I'm always going to enjoy it. I hope that younger generations can appreciate it. It definitely affected the sense of humor, like I said, the cultural sense of humor that we have. It introduced, I think, Lol So Random humor more than any other show, which, for better or worse. But I really, really urge people to, if you've never seen this show, even if you tried it 15 years ago and didn't like it, just give it a chance. If it's not your cup of tea, that's fine. Just don't watch it. But if it is, there's 1,000 episodes of it that I feel like nobody watches. So please just check it out and then watch, C-Lab and Harvey Birdman and all those other shows of the time that were just as weird, but a little more grounded. So maybe those are more your thing if you don't like this.
So Matthew, you're our special guest. Can you let people know where we can find you, where you can find your stuff, and how we can support you?
Yes, thank you for having me again. I make a show on YouTube called Cartoons 101 at youtube.com/cartoons101, which is supported by a Patreon at patreon.com/cartoons101, where you can get an exclusive weekly podcast where I interview people like Bill Oakley and Evan Dorkin and Scott Gardner, and I've talked to a bunch of people. I have a bunch of, now that I've been detailing the crazy story of what I've been going through with my computer. I'm almost at the end of that, so I'm starting to line up interviews and podcasts again. So by the time you hear this, I should be back on schedule. I hope so, because this episode's a few weeks out. So please check that out. I got a little bit of possibly awesome news just today about a possible interview that I'm just going to tease a little bit. But if you know who I am and you follow me on social media, you might know what it's about. So check that stuff out, and also get exclusive drawings by me and all kinds of stuff. youtube.com/cartoons101, and watch Hot Streets, because I mentioned that earlier and I feel like no one's watching it, and that show's fucking hilarious. It's so stupid, and my friend Steve works on it. It's great.
Oh, cool. Is that on Hulu?
I don't think so yet. I watched the first season on the Adult Swim app. It's free on there, so if you have like a Roku or something, you can watch it on there, but season 2 is still on lockdown. I also, while we're talking about Adult Swim, I've been using the app a lot because I have a Roku thing now on my TV, and they do the marathon thing, which is cool. You just click on a show and it's just like always running. So yesterday I just, for the whole second half of my day while I was doing stuff, I left Rick and Morty playing, and I didn't need to think about an episode to watch or whatever. I just turned it on and I watched like most of season 2. It was cool. So check out Adult Swim in general. I feel like Adult Swim it's not dying because they're making millions of dollars off of Rick and Morty, but like I feel like it's kind of lost its cachet in this no monoculture weird like society we live in now. But check out Adult Swim. It's they've done some bad shit recently, but a lot of good people work for them.
I mean, I think it's an institution. It's not this weird alternative, fly by night thing that they're just barely getting away with. So, I mean, it's lost some of the specialness, but man, it's still making great stuff. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Matthew. As for us, we are your hosts for What a Cartoon, and we are part of the Talking Simpsons Network. It funds everything we do and our very meager lifestyle. So if you want to help support the show, please go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. If you give at the $5 level, you can get every episode of this podcast a week ahead of time and ad-free. And the same goes for our other podcast, Talking Simpsons. There's also dozens and dozens of bonus podcasts available at the $5 level. Things you've never heard if you're not a patron. Stuff like exclusive miniseries and season wrap-ups for Talking Simpsons and so much more. Interviews, there's a lot going on there. And at the $10 level, we have replaced the video tier with a movie podcast in the style of What a Cartoon that will be available every month, once per month, for $10 patrons. And our first movie this month will be Batman Mask of the Phantasm, the Batman the Animated Series movie. And again, patrons voted for that. If you want to be in on the voting process, you just need to be a $5 and up patron. If you want to listen to the podcast, you need to be a $10 and up patron. So please, any amount would be fine. But if you want to get the most for your money, $10 is amazing. $5 a lot of podcasts. If you can only give $1, we will totally respect that. And for $1, you can also access our community podcast, Talk to the Audience, where we talk about the Simpsons world and we answer and respond to Simpsons questions and comments we get on the Patreon. But yes,
that $10 a month level is really cool because you will get access to all the exclusive videos we used to do, but now we're doing a cool movie, What a Cartoon, and I'm really happy that Batman Mask of the Phantasm won. Also because this year is the 25th anniversary of it, and it actually just got re-released in theaters via Fathom Events, for one night. But hey, still, re-released in theaters, and is it the best Batman film ever? Listen and find out.
It is. I will say right now. But still listen. Henry, where can we find you?
I'm HENRAYG on Twitter, and I am also supported by the Talking Simpsons Network. Give that money to patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. If you want to know when new episodes of this podcast and Talking Simpsons Goes Live, plus all of our Patreon exclusives, I tweet about all of that there many times a week on Twitter at HENEREYG.
And I am on Twitter as Bob Servo. My other podcast is Retronauts. Go to retronauts.com or look for Retronauts in your podcast machine. It is a classic gaming podcast. There's thousands of episodes, actually hundreds, but almost thousands. Come on, give me a break here. And if you like video games, you'll like Retronauts, so check it out, folks.
And be sure to join us next week for our episode of the Rugrats Hanukkah Special.
I never dreamed I'd be an Aqua Teen. 13 seasons, what did it mean? A master shake, meet what a floating head, and now you're dead, and it's the end of Aqua Teen. Hunger Force, it's the end of Aqua Teen. Hunger Force.
Your roommate is a nerd.
Yes, on the moon, nerds get their pants pulled down and they are spanked with moon rocks.
Man, you guys sure talk a lot about the moon.
Yes.
You got a problem with that?
Come on, let's go swimming.